Hello there, and welcome to today's edition, or should I say tonight's edition, of the Robert H. Wilde True Crime Show. How are we all? Got a few things lined up for you tonight. I've got a story that sounds like it's been taken from the plot of a cheesy 80s movie. And then something a little bit strange at the end, in fact a little sort of oddity, and hopefully a few other things. Just to remind everybody that we will be doing Thursday streams for the future. We will be pausing Tuesdays so I can work on the Jack the Ripper series, and when Tuesdays comes back it's going to be Jack the Ripper heavy, so that should be a really good thing. I've got 60,000 words already, plenty more to go, lots to get through. I think it's going to give me an idea to do a real sort of signature opening, so I think that'd be great. Right, so the first thing we have tonight is the story of Robert Hansen. Now, you know it. You know this movie. You've seen this movie, where a killer releases human prey into the wilderness so they can hunt them for sport. I'm fairly certain that's a sort of Van Damme, Lance Henriksen movie. And you'd think, well, that would never actually happen in real life. Yeah, it did. It did happen in real life. So let me introduce you to Robert Hansen, a serial killer and purveyor of his own brand of hunting. Robert Hansen was born on February 15th, 1939, to Edna Margaret Hansen, who was American, and Christian Hansen, who was Danish. They were in Iowa at the time. He was the eldest of two siblings. In 1942, the family moved to California, but returned to Iowa in 1949. His parents ran a bakery, and Hansen worked in it. During school, he was a quiet loner, never escaping the shadows of his bullying father. He was physically embarrassed by a stutter and acne scars. He was shy. His outlet, however, was hunting and archery, which he was very good at. And in 1947 he joined the Army Reserves, but only lasted a year. However, he was still able to become a part-time police academy drill instructor. He married in 1960. Now, I suppose if you felt bullied and alienated in school and you were about to start on a truly terrible criminal career, we have a subscription. Thank you very much, Ditchpot Heroes. Resubscribed for 2 months. That's excellent of you, Ditch. Thank you very much. If anybody wants to subscribe, you do get custom emotes, which you can then use across Twitch. I'm sure some might have uses outside the stream, but and Ditch welcomes us with flange. Yes, we have a very grumpy kitty. There is not been any Polly in here tonight as I've been working. Polly is currently sat in the upstairs hallway having a mard. She has had a lot of cat milk, which I think makes her okay, but does not improve her view of me. So we shall see if we get a kitty. So I suppose if you were going to start a criminal career and you'd been bullied at school, you'd burn the school bus garage down, which is where Hansen started. But he got caught because he'd forced somebody to help him, and they turned him in. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison. But he served just 20 months. He was diagnosed as manic depressive with schizophrenic episodes as well as an infantile personality. While inside, his wife divorced him. Hansen followed this up with several years of being arrested for theft, which he did purely for fun. However, he seemed to turn a leaf. He married again, had 2 children, moved to Anchorage in Alaska, and ran a bakery like his father did. Crucially, he also brought a plane. Hold that thought. Overall, he carved out a local reputation as a nice man, a minor local celebrity, and one of the local record-breaking hunters. Until I'm going to tell you about the career of Robert Hansen, a serial killer who killed quite a lot of people. However, there was a chance to stop him, and I don't mean a small chance to stop him. I mean a serious chance to stop him. In December 1971, Hansen was arrested for the kidnapping and attempted rape of a housewife. He was then arrested for raping a prostitute. Both these crimes he plea bargained his way to an assault charge and a 5-year sentence, but after 6 months was moved to work release and a halfway house. In 1976, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison for stealing a chainsaw, but the Alaska Supreme Court freed him after reducing his sentence. He was told he had to take lithium for his bipolar, but he never did. He could have been given the long sentence he deserved for the sex attacks, and if he did, they would have saved an awful lot of lives, because in 1972 Hansen had started committing murders. We believe his first victim, 1972, was 18-year-old Celia Van Zanten. She went missing on December 22nd, 1971, while coming back from a supermarket. Her frozen body was found lost in the wilderness on December 25th. Yes, sadly, her body was found on Christmas Day. She had a cut to the chest. She had been tied up and raped and then left to die. Forensic evidence says she had attempted to get back to civilization but succumbed to the Alaskan wilderness, which, as far as I don't really need to describe, is sort of cold and bleak and cold. Hansen always denied he did this, even when captured, but there's a few things that make us think he did it. Firstly, it fits with the pattern he would establish. He would pick up women. After the first few, he preferred prostitutes. He would drive them at gunpoint to his home, assault them, and then usually drive or fly them out into the wilderness, release them, and then chase after them, hunting them for fun before killing them. Van Zanten fits this pattern also in what could arguably be called somewhat of a more slam dunk piece of evidence. The place where they found her body was marked by Hansen on the map he used to mark where he left body. Yeah, it's pretty obvious he killed her, yeah. We will get back to the map later. Oddly enough, his arrest for the rape of the prostitute and the assault came because of Celia Van Zanten's death. When her body was discovered, a state trooper contacted the investigators and told them he knew a prostitute had important evidence. He certainly did. It was his daughter. Sandra Patterson was 18, addicted to heroin, and had been abducted at gunpoint by a man who tied her up, threatened her, hit her, took her to a motel, assaulted her, but she managed to talk him into letting her go. She clearly identified Hansen to the police as the rapist. Then Sandra gave a statement that should haunt the legal system to this day. You know, she said, I may be doing something that some people don't think is totally acceptable, and it may not be, but that's not why I'm here. I'm here because that Robert Hansen guy is probably a premeditated, cold-blooded killer who has killed before. He said he's killed before, and everything he said was absolutely true. Everything he did, he said he would do to me came true. Everything he said he would do, he did. Every threat he made, I believed. And if he says he's killed people, I believe he's killed people. And if you've got a young girl who's been around the same time and in the same area, then I believe it was Hansen who killed her. I believe he'll kill me too. Hello, King Cobra. Good to see you in. Hope you've been having a good evening. So Hansen had got away with it, and he now unleashed a many years long killing spree. He killed at least 17, probably 21, maybe more women. After a while, he chose prostitutes to kill. There were quite a lot in Anchorage. Anchorage has experienced a flood of workmen drawn by large construction projects, mainly the 800-mile Trans-Alaska oil pipeline, and a flood of women came who could take those men's money. They needed it in order to survive. Because strip clubs could make $100,000 a month. Obviously, the women made much less, but some made large sums of money. People came and went from different areas, especially the girls in the sex industry. It was a brutalist, lawless, free-for-all where everything was on sale. And unfortunately, that is the perfect place for a serial killer to operate. Hansen would pick women from strip clubs and agreed to meet them for nude photographs. His favourite offer was $300 for the session. When they went, they'd never return. But he had a particular demand. He wouldn't ask them first. He wanted and needed them to approach him. She had to come out and say, we could do it, but it's going to cost you some money, he explained. Then she was no longer, I guess, what you might call a decent girl. Yes, Robert Hansen was one of those men. But as these women died, they slipped through the cracks in society. People would often not think they'd left town, as many did, and it took a while to begin to piece together what was going on. Only 12 bodies were ever found. We will return to the map later. So, although Hansen ranged widely in the Alaskan wilderness, his favourite place was the River Nick, with remote sandbars he could land on and operate from. He took trophies from many of the women's possessions and kept them in his basement. So we're going to run through some of the victims now and the stories of what happened to them. So July 17th, 1973, Megan Emmerich vanished from her boarding school. Her classmates set out to search for her and call the police. Hansen denied he had still, to the end, denied he killed Megan, but admitted he was in town that day, and he had told an inmate in a prison he'd taken her to a cabin and killed her, and he had marked his map with the spot he told the inmate about. Again, he's going to deny a lot of things, and the map's going to go, yeah, you're lying, because we've got this map, which he made. Margaret Thales' murder is in much the same position. She vanished on July 5th, 1975. Hansen admitted he was in the area, denied killing her, but he had told an inmate where he dumped her, and there was a mark on the map. Eklunta Annie is a name given to a woman who has never been identified, but whose body was found around Anchorage in this period. She was found on July 21st, 1980. Hansen said he did kidnap her, but he had to kidnap her, stab her in the back as she ran away. And she was a prostitute whose name he didn't know. He claims she was his first murder, but nobody believes him. Hello everybody, we have had a major raid. Foxy Harley has brought her fabulous foxes in. Good lot of photo people. Hello everybody, welcome to you all. Good to see you. Let's have a look at who's in chat. So firstly, welcome Foxy. Foxy is a variety streamer who has been playing the excellent... I've now gone blank even though I was watching it because I've got this story in my head. Layers of Fear 2, that's it, Layers of Fear 2. Welcome Welsh JJ Guitarist, he plays guitar on stream, he's very good. Karen Roberts is an excellent singer, do follow her. Jin TV, Jin is a double threat. She plays brilliant piano and makes brilliant cakes. Somehow we've got to have some sort of group testing. There's a vid too, yeah. Thanks everyone, welcome in. We are doing Robert Hansen, the so-called Butcher Baker. If you've been watching for the last few minutes, you will have worked out he's called the Butcher Baker because he was an actual baker who butchered people. I'll just give you a summary, chaps, on what the story is. Do you know that film with Jean-Claude Van Damme and Lance Henriksen, where there's like some sort of natter and he likes to kidnap women and let them loose in like the wilderness, and then he hunts them down as a big game? Yeah, it's kind of the real life ditches straight with Hard Target. It's kind of like the actual real Hard Target. Oh, it was veterans he was hunting there. Yeah, well, obviously in Hard Target, you know, they've got to have a reason for Jean-Claude Van Damme to turn up. Oh, nice cat emotes. Everyone's getting their cat emotes in chat. That's what we like to see. Ginger's cat is called Marmite. I believe he managed to give Ginger a minor head injury by leaping out of a cupboard at her, which I feel that when Polly is better is the future I too face. So we're just running. We've just done a bit of back the context of Robert Hansen, and we're just running through a list of the yeah. Now Polly's going to trip you on the stairs. Yes, I think she will. I think she's probably planning. In fact, she's sat at the top of the stairs as if to say, "You going down? You going down?" Oh yes, I forgot to say, King Cobra is a streamer too. So Joanne Messina was 24 years old. She went on a date with Hansen on May 19th, 1980. It wasn't a date. She wanted to be paid for the services. Sadly, she brought her dog with her for security. Yeah, they both died. We'll gloss over the dog. Yeah, you're right, Wes. There's so many great streamers in here. It's like a concentrated weight of quality streamers. I'm sure there's some sort of great sciencey word, gravity-based word for that. I was going to say it's like a black hole of streamers, but that sounds really terrible, doesn't it? That sounds like really negative. But yeah. Well, it's worth just laughing. Roxanne Eastland, a melange of streamers, yeah. Well, Eastland vanished June 29th, 1980. She was staying in a motel. She told people she was going to meet a man and vanished. Hansen confessed. No body was found. Lisa Fulltrell, September 6th, 1980. She was abducted and dumped in a gravel pit. Oh, Black Hole is called. Hello, Thelonious. Great to see you. No one's ever late in this stream apart from me. I suppose I can be late because it's not running. But everyone else is free to come and go as they want. Sherry Morrow disappeared on November 17, 1981. She left for an appointment with an unnamed photographer for some porn shoots. Her body was found by hunters a year later. What they worked out is one of Hansen's weird signatures. She had been shot dead while she was naked, but had been dressed for the burial. He did this several times, and nobody ever knows why. Ditch said you told me attendance was compulsory. There's different rules when you're down the road, Ditch. Again, when Andrea Altieri went missing, it was the same essential scam. Lured for an exotic photo shoot, kidnapped at gunpoint, taken into the wilderness. Her body's still missing. Hansen admitted to it. Sue Luna was abducted by Hansen again for a photo shoot. And again, she was set loose in the forest and pursued as game. Robin Pelkey was found dead on April 25th, 1984, but we didn't know it was Robin Pelkey until 2021, when forensic genealogy managed to give who was known as Horseshoe Harriet a name. She'd been stabbed as well as shot. Now, I don't know if if you were here in one of the very early streams, you will be aware of the sort of breaking field in crime detection of genetic genealogy. This is where you get the DNA sample of somebody, and instead of matching it directly with suspects or family that you know of that have got a DNA sample, you compare it with the databases of DNA that have been built up by people researching family history and genealogy. It turns out, completely accidentally, there is a vast and highly useful database collection of DNA that can be used to trace across all sorts of lines and people. There is, of course, a massive grey area of consent and the law, and whether this is even a good idea. Whether it's even a good idea to actually use these things, given that people didn't specifically say you could use them for crime detection. Nonetheless, it caught one killer, and it did allow Robin Palkey to be identified. Delaine Rane Frey, March 1983. She was identified many years later by the jewellery that had been taken. They found it in Hansen's home. Paula Golding was again one of the ones where she was found. She went missing in April 1983. Her body was found in September. Again, she had been stripped before being chased and hunted, and then dressed before being buried. Again, we don't know. There is something very strange about a man who would perform that level of brutality and then dress the body he was then burying. Something very weird about that. I mean, obviously there's something weird about this man's psyche, but there's something weird there anyway. It is at this point in the chronology that Hansen abducted Cindy Paulson. Because she is so vital to how he was caught, we will come back to her in a bit. Ditch has said you need to do a true crime show on parcels that go missing in the post. Too soon? Yes, but I have been in the middle of my own exceptionally minor true crime, and that's something I posted with a very expensive courier kind of delivery thing, not just stuck in the post box, but really paid for a high service. Completely vanished. Was it aliens? Was it somebody stealing it? Anyway, it's insured, so hopefully I'll get the money back. But I have heard that it can be quite difficult even when you've insured it. Hello there, sorry about that. We'll just go through a few final victims and then we'll get to the interesting story of how he was found. Simile Larson disappeared July 1981. Teresa Watson disappeared March 1983. Again, haven't been asked for paid company. Angela Fedden and Tamara Pedersen were also victims. Now, of course, the police were searching. They were looking. They knew they were dealing with a serial killer, and a task force had been created under Detective Glenn Floth. They were out there, they were looking. And Floth's team and Cindy Paulson would eventually come together to arrest Hansen. So let's discuss Cindy Paulson. Ooh, Ditch Boy has given a gift sub to Welsh J Guitarist. Thank you very much, Ditch. Welsh, do enjoy your emotes. So, in June 13th, 1983, Cindy Paulson agreed to give a man a blowjob for $200. When she got in the car, it turned out it was Hansen, and he pulled a gun. He drove her to his home, raped her, tortured her, and then drove her to an airfield where he informed her she would be taken to his cabin, which was only accessible by boat or plane, and would take part in a hunt. However, while Paulson was handcuffed, she wasn't handcuffed to anything. And as Hansen readied the plane, she made a break for it. She legged it. In fact, she was so fast, she made it to 6th Avenue with Hansen chasing her, and managed to meet a trucker who stopped to pick her up. The trucker drove her to the Mush Inn. She rang her boyfriend. The trucker rang the police. The police went to find Paulson, had to follow her trail to find where her boyfriend worked, and then find her, and yada yada yada. Oh wow, we have had a huge sub bomb from Ditch Boy. Thank you, Ditch. Please enjoy your emotes. Kegel Maiden, Sarah Blove, Gingin, Sofa King Gunnar Al, and Vernon Ware. Thank you very much. Yes, Gingin, you can now use my cat's emotes. Ditch, I don't know if you saw, Gingin's cat is called Marmite. And is quite a character. Yeah, Polly, now, by this time next week, Polly should be in a much better mood. Her treatment will be sorted. And Digboy has gifted a gift sub to Cockwomble. I don't remember that in the kids' TV show. Perhaps I'm forgetting. Anyway, the good news is Cindy Paulson had escaped. The bad news is, when she told the police what had happened, they went and spoke to Hansen, and he said, well, she's trying to extort money out of me. This is her revenge, and I refused. He also said, you can't rape a prostitute, can you? And his friends made up an alibi, so he was let go. But hold on. Because they had questioned him, his details were now in the system. And after a gap, Floth's team had been working with the FBI to create a profile for who the killer might be. Hello there, Tegan. Good to see you. Special Agent John Douglas came up with a profile of an experienced hunter, constantly rejected by women, a collector of victims' souvenirs with low self-esteem and possibly a stutter. They looked through records. They found Hansen's record. It matched. Hansen also owned a hut and a plane to get into it. In order to get enough evidence for a warrant, the police hauled in the men who had given Hansen his alibi and sort of leaned on them, and they admitted they lied. This was enough to get a warrant, and on October 27th, 1983, a search of Hansen's property revealed jewellery from the missing women's, guns, and hidden away an aviation chart with lots of X's all over it. Some of these X's corresponded to where the bodies were dumped, leading police to believe all these X's corresponded to where bodies were dumped. Hansen denied it for a while, but the police discovered he could be triggered into a rage, saying it was all the woman's fault that he had to kidnap and assault and murder them, and he was in the right. Frank Rothschild, one of the investigators, said he was mild-mannered Bob the Baker, and as I'm looking at him, all of a sudden he transformed. The hair on the back of his neck stood up, and his neck got red, and he was pissed. I can still see him when he got livid like that. And when Frank left the room, you could still hear him screaming at his lawyers. Police soon had a confession for a long series of serial killings which began in 1971. At least 17, probably 21, maybe more. Perhaps one of the most bizarre or odd things about Robert Hansen is an interview he gave In the book Get Butcher Baker by Gilmore and Hale, they interviewed him. He didn't actually say he hated the women he killed. In fact, he said something a bit different, and I'm going to read you a quote now. "I didn't start to hate all women. As a matter of fact, I would venture to say I started to fall in love with every one of them. Every one of them became so precious to me because I wanted their friendship. I wanted to like them so much." At this point, you're probably sat there going, what the hell is wrong with this man? Yeah, we all are. On top of the things that have happened, I'm not saying that I hate all women. I don't. Quite the contrary. I guess in my own mind what I'm classifying as a good woman, not a prostitute. I'd do anything in my power, any shape, way or form, to do anything for her, and see that no harm ever came to her. But I guess prostitutes are women I'm putting down than lowering as myself. Yeah, he's like that. Yeah. It's like that. Anyway, Hansen was initially charged with multiple offences, including the insurance fraud, which let him buy the plane. Now, you see, when people talk about gateway drugs, it turned out that a little bit of cheeky insurance fraud, which some people don't consider that bad, enabled a massive serial killer. But not yet murder. However, forensics then matched bullets from the guns they'd found to the victims, and he made a plea bargain. He pled guilty to the murders of Morrow, Messina, Goulding, and Electrona Alley. In return, the police would allow him to stay in a lower security prison outside Alaska, because he was afraid he'd bump into people who knew his victims and kill him. In return, he would lead the police to where the bodies were, and he would also explain what happened freely. He claimed there were women he let loose because they seemed honest about not going to the police. None of these women have been found. Maybe they exist. I think we're all feeling they probably don't. There are still marks on the map. He took them to 17 graves, 12 the police did not know about, but there were still marks on the map that he did not explain. This means there are possibly many more victims. He went on trial, was found guilty, and sentenced to a cool 461 years without parole. His wife divorced him, she and the children moved away. But he had a few little tricks. Firstly, he became the prison barber. Not sure you necessarily want him near you with a pair of very sharp scissors. Secondly, in 1990, he was caught with an escape plan. In the supply room he worked in, they found an aeronautical chart, a hand-knit winter hat, magazine articles on plastic explosives, and correspondence with a boat broker. It was called the Bust of the Decade. Anyway, he died in 2014, aged 75, of natural causes. As I said at the beginning, there was a clear and obvious chance to put him in prison for a period of time that he clearly deserved, that was completely spurned by the legal system that allowed him to kill possibly 16 or more women. And this was noted. Judge Moody of the Superior Court said, "I cannot think of a bigger indictment of our society than we have here. This gentleman has been known to us for several years. We've turned him loose several times." So that was Robert Hansen, the Butcher Baker, aka actual Lance Henriksen. Well, I'll have a little pause, we'll have a little chat with chat. Hello, chat. Let's make sure I've not missed anybody. Thanks very much. Thanks for the applause, that's always appreciated. It's always good to know people are enjoying this, because it helps me go on and keep going, you know. We're going to have a little break before the next full story, because I have a agreement to honour. Ditch a few weeks ago ran a poll about which animal should we have a crime story on. Tortoise won. Now, as I'm sure you can all anticipate, the number of tortoise-related true crime stories is limited. They are mostly smuggling based. Oh, thank you, Tegan, thank you. But I have found one. I have found a tortoise true crime story. Warning, this is not for people, tortoise rights champions. This is sad if you're a tortoise. But it is a weird mystery, and it is so new. It is ongoing as we speak. So we'll do that in a minute. Oh God, what have I done? So how is everybody? How are we all doing? It is June. Has anybody had the summer yet? I believe Thelonious is roasting. Where she is, but how is everyone else doing? Summer, what's that? Yeah, exactly. It's beginning to look like the Great British Summer may not appear, and we'll just get the dull, overcast, rainy one that we normally do. So we shall see. Tegan says, I think we skipped summer straight into autumn. Oh, yeah. Now, Karen's favourite season is autumn. So if autumn starts early, I think Karen will be thrilled. Oh, it's freezing where you are, Thelonious. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were... Somebody had a great deal of heat the other day. It obviously wasn't you, Thelonious. We were supposed to get a heat wave in July. Oh. 10 degrees. Yeah. Alright, right, so I apologise in advance for the tortoise story. Alright. So, this is a live ongoing investigation, of which there was an update on the 28th of May with some court decisions. So the request was a crime story involving tortoises. So, it is Ashcliffe Forest, north of Exeter, in Devon and Cornwall, UK. Police are growing concerned and perplexed because they keep finding bodies in Ashcliffe Forest. Not of people, they keep finding the bodies of giant tortoises. Now, for everybody not familiar with the UK, there are no local, indigenous, lateral, whatever you want to say, giant tortoises. We do not have giant tortoises. There is not supposed to be a giant tortoise in a forest, let alone a dead one. Somehow, somebody keeps dumping giant tortoise bodies in a forest, which suggests they're pretty local. Full post-mortems were carried out to try and work out what the hell was going on. 2 of them were found on National Trust land, and another 5 were found nearby. They are Aldabra giant tortoises, if that means anything to anybody. I'm not too sure on the different species. So, the police, the RSPCA, the National Crime Wildlife Unit and locals came together to try and work out what the hell was going on. Anyway, when I first saw this news story, I thought, well, that's a bit thin. I'm not sure if we can do that. And then amazingly, the next day, the 28th of May, there was a news report. Now, this is true, but I'm going to have to withhold some of the details that I have read, and you'll find out why. So, a man in Devon has been issued a court summons over the death of 10 giant tortoises. There have now been 10 found. The man is due to appear at Exeter Magistrates Court and will be charged under the Animal Welfare Act and the Environmental Protection Act. I know his name, but because this is an ongoing case, he's merely been summoned, and I do not have the legal and journalistic weight of the BBC. I'm not going to mention his name here. But I am going to go on and tell you what they think happened as revealed by the charges. So he's actually accused of littering 10 bodies. So how has he got 10 bodies? What's going on here? Well, if you read the charges, it looks like there is a specific mention of a heating system relating to their care which failed. So it looks like somehow this man has managed to acquire 10 giant tortoises. Now that's not exactly a necessarily legal thing to do, and had them in his property, and due to a heating failure they appear to have passed away, and he appears to have decided that the best way to deal with this is to dump them in a public forest. What do you think people were going to go? Oh look, we've suddenly spouted tortoises, isn't that fantastic? Like, I don't know, maybe I've been doing true crime too long, 10, Foxy, 10. I've been doing true crime too long. The idea that you just go and shove it in a forest, that's not planning. You've got wheelie bins, you've got, if you've got the facility to have a heating system built in the first place, there must be a better way. Sorry, I don't know, I'm second guessing the terrible man, but it just seems a bit stupid, doesn't it? Shove him over the fence. Anyway, I shall keep you updated on his trial. But that appears to be what happened. So, Ditch, is that... you're going to say no to this. Is that a sufficient tortoise-based true crime story? It is next animal challenge postponed. Is that because I've done an animal challenge where they all die and you're like, this is not fun? Thanks, Rob, this is not fun. Look, we're very limited on tortoise-based crime. It's mostly smuggling. I at least found something that wasn't smuggling. Although I have a feeling there's been a bit of smuggling involved in this. This also means it's an ongoing challenge, yeah. This also means I can close 2 tabs, which will cheer Steve up. Right, we are going to jump into a bit of a weird little crime. I just need to look. I just need to double check what I'm about to say. Yeah, right. So I don't know if anybody has read The Collector by John Fowles. Really good classic book about a man who, it's quite a complex character study, a man who kidnaps a woman and keeps her as if he was one of the butterflies he collects. Once again, I do like pointing to a work of fiction and going, right, well, here's where it actually happened. So that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're doing The Collector in real life. Because that's the way we roll. So, what am I talking about? I'm talking about a man called... Now, once again, I apologise. I will probably get this name a bit wrong, or very wrong. No disrespect is intended. I believe he's called Kabu Terauchi. We're going to go with that. People. I spent many years with people completely mispronouncing my name in fantastical ways, so I don't really get angry with anybody that does that. Yeah, but you're sat there going, how can you mispronounce wild? Well, for a start, I spent quite a long time being called Wildy. Which is always good. Thelonious, read a book. What's that? Yeah, sorry, Thelonious. Do you want me to say the name again, or? Oh, I see what you mean. Read a book. What's that? Yeah. I mean, we're all online, aren't we? We're all online. This is it. Like, I'll read the book and then I'll tell you about the crimes or the history. That's how it works. That's my role. I communicate between the two. The audience just enjoying their favourite medium, which is Twitch streams. I feel that's my role, which I like. So by all account, used to read a lot when I was younger, haven't got the concentration anymore. Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting. Is that due to social media or growing old or just because we find other things? Oh, Thelonious says never read a book of my life, that's why I'm loving this. Excellent, that's fine. That's great. Well, that's why I'm here, this is what I think I'm here to do. So that's perfect, Thelonious, that's perfect. This is an opportune moment to say if anybody reading this, listening to this, does want to read a book, I have some books. They're in the corner. But I'm quite good at the stuff I write up for this will appear in a book, so you don't. If you're watching this stream, you've got 95% of it, unless you want to reference it or read it down and go back and check. Sometimes there will be things in the book like statements from the killer or documents that I will not read out on this stream, because this stream does have a limit on what we will go. It is a friendlier, happier stream than your average true crime book tends to be. So that's the difference. That's also why there is no visual horror on this. We will not be doing that. Although people have said maybe some photos of the people we're talking about when they're normal. So we'll have a think. Copyright's the problem, So we'll see. Right. By all accounts, Kabu Terauchi had a good childhood. His family were comfortably off. He was able to attend and graduate Chiba University. He gained a pilot's license. He moved through several jobs without too much trouble. In court, he would argue he was bullied heavily and retreated into isolation. And this would become a defining feature of the case, because he had argued he had been abused and isolated so much that he had developed a desire to isolate and observe somebody else. Not necessarily harm in what 99.9% of these true crime stories generally involve, but literally just to watch. Because although I said he passed a degree from Chiba University, while he did this, he had a prisoner. If that sounds unusual, that's because this is a very odd case. The bizarre nature is typified by its origins. Terauchi decided he wanted to kidnap a young girl, but not for what we might consider traditional criminal reasons. He spent considerable time researching locations where he could best do this, and he drove to Saitama Prefecture on March 10, 2014, and approached a girl called Anna Sato as she walked home from junior high. I do need to point out, Anna Sato is a false name used by the legal system to protect her real identity. So, he didn't overwhelm her with pure force, like how you would imagine a kidnapper might do. Instead, he took the con man approach. He approached her and told her that her parents were going to divorce, that he'd been sent by their lawyers. He told her that people wanted to sell her organs, that he had come to save her, that she should come with him. Right at the start, he began constructing a fantasy world with the intention of making Sato feel isolated enough that she would stay with him. He managed to persuade her to get into the vehicle, where he took her to his flat, and then didn't let her out again. He didn't try to physically harm her or sexually assault her. He kept her well fed and tried to provide toys and other things to keep her occupied and happy. At the same time, he constantly told her that her family friends had abandoned her and she must stay. He just wanted somebody to watch. However, of course, to make sure that happened, he was adding drugs to her food to keep her pliant. Obviously all quite strange. There were occasions when Sato had the opportunity to run, such as Terauchi going to work and leaving a door unlocked. On the first occasion this happened, she did have an opportunity. She got outside. She found somebody outside and appealed to her for help, but it was a mother too busy with her own kid to bother helping. And there was also a police patrol car who ignored her and drove off. Now you might think she's escaped, but Terauchi's words were in her head. His isolation fantasy was working on her, and she went back to the flat, believing she was alone in the middle of nowhere, who knows where. That was the place to return to. It's also believed that the drugs she was being fed were impairing her ability to think. So she returned to the flat. Sato would later say in court that having been ignored on this first attempt, she gave up all hope and just stayed pliant and watched. The family and police were very worried, but bizarrely they were not initially certain she'd been kidnapped. A letter arrived, written by Sato on Terauchi's orders, which stated, "I need a little break from home and school. I'll be at my friend's house for now. Please do not come searching for me." Well, obviously they reported her missing, but 9 days later another letter arrived saying, "I'm doing fine. I'm sorry for causing a lot of stress. Don't find me." For some people it looked like a girl who'd fallen out with her family and run off to stay with friends who weren't talking. However, this is why we have police, and they realised she wouldn't have run off because her clothes, her possessions and her essentials were all at home. Armed with this conclusion, the police and a renewed family never gave up trying to find her, even though they had absolutely no idea where she was. Indeed, at one point, Terauchi managed to move from Chiba to Tokyo and took Sato with him. Nobody realised, and she didn't escape. However, the family became... Sorry, I missed it. How old was the girl? Let me just have a look up. Oh, yes. I don't think we know her name or her age to protect her. So the age isn't real. The age isn't real. So the name isn't real. My notes don't contain an age, which I think is because there was a strong element of, especially in the official sort of documents, a strong element of trying to protect and stop anyone working out who she was. So her family decided... Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? There are... I've sort of covered many cases from around the world, but in Japan they go out very, very out of their way to mask children's names and things like that. I think we did one a few weeks ago where everybody was simply referred to by a different letter of the alphabet, and things like that. Anyway, so her parents did not give up. So one way you don't give up is the old-fashioned method of using missing posters. And her family put missing posters in the media. Now, Terauchi allowed Sato to read one newspaper about the daily news. And this, from Terauchi's point of view, was a massive error, because Sato opened it up one day and there was a missing persons advert. She realised that her family had not abandoned her, and she was not being hunted, and this was all a complete fiction. Suddenly, the hope she had lost on her first escape returned. That was why, when he forgot to lock a door when he went out on March 27, 2016, she escaped and rang her parents from a payphone with money she had managed to hide. Just for this. Her parents answered, but told her to hang up and ring the police immediately. She did, and was rescued after 2 years in captivity. Terauchi ran, but wasn't caught till the next day, when he tried to commit suicide by cutting his throat with a box cutter. Once again, he was living in a fantasy world, if you thought that would actually work. But he recovered enough to stand trial. Yes, Foxy, just to remind you, during this 2 years, he was studying and passed a degree. You know, he was going out, he was doing stuff, he was active. It's not just, he didn't just sort of sit in there with her, but she was there for 2 years. So he was arrested. He initially told police he'd wanted to abduct and observe a girl since he himself had been in junior high, and he'd picked Sato at random because she was walking alone. This isn't true, because Sato knew and remembered that when he greeted her, he had used her own name in order to start destabilizing her and making her think what he said was true. So he had chosen her. Nonetheless, if you think this story is bizarre until now, well, welcome to the trial. The court case was marked by Terauchi's bizarre behaviour. He repeatedly called Sato the examination subject, and when asked about his profession, he called himself a fairy from the forest. He made unusual noises and shrieks in the middle of court. One day he claimed he couldn't speak Japanese. One day he claimed he was an amoeba. He was 26 and in an absolute complete fantasy world, which is presumably how it all started. The court decided, however, that he was able to take full responsibility for his actions because there was definite planning in setting the abduction up. The defendant was aware of the legality of his acts as he made attempts to prevent them from being revealed, such as using stolen number plates during the abduction. He tried to claim schizophrenia, but that didn't work. He also claimed the period of imprisonment wasn't too long or too bad. The judge was having none of it. Well done, moderator. Thank you very much. The victim's account suggested there was no physical violence or verbal abuse. Nonetheless, after a back and forth of sentences and appeals, he was given 12 years in prison. And that is the very strange case of the Watcher. So, what do we think about that? 12, yeah, exactly. Japan, one of the things I've noticed in Japan, writing stories about Japanese crime, is that often their sentences seem surprisingly low. They do have the death penalty, but their sentences do often seem surprisingly low. That said, earlier on in this stream, we talked about Robert Hansen, who managed to essentially spend almost no time in prison for rape. So it's not exactly a problem that's localised to one country. There is a general global lack of putting people in places where they can't harm other people. Yeah, Fox, it doesn't make sense. I mean, the man's clearly madder than a bag of cats, right? So he only gets 12 years. And he tried to go, I didn't hurt her, but you still kept, you still kidnapped her and kept her in a house. You're still completely mad. But yeah, 12 years. Which, let me just do the maths. He could be out in a few years. Bit weird, bit worrying. I'm assuming he's had some treatment, but you never know. You never know. It doesn't look like my fluffy assistant and stream mascot will be in tonight. She's still mad at me because of the vet visits. Not even Daddy mysteriously talking on his own, which normally lures her in. Which I also should point out only happens during streams. Daddy does not normally sit here and talk like a crazy man. So she's not coming in. So what we've got coming up, I was reminded, fed her drugs, yeah. I was reminded by Foxy, in fact. Foxy was playing Little Nightmares 2, and we were referring to one of the characters in it as the Slender Man, because there's no text or vocals in Little Nightmares 2. She didn't actually know what everyone's called. Yeah, maybe I should give her some catnip. I've been treating her to other things. I've been treating her to cat milk and sardines and tuna, and she eats them. So hopefully inside her she's okay. You know, as a cat she's fine, but it is not warming her up to me. I have to admit, she's getting increasingly grumpy and intolerant of Daddy. But by Tuesday evening, I should have a healthy cat, and then we can work on reforming our relationship. I will have done the responsible thing and got her better. Yeah, you've got a couple like that. Yeah, she's just been a right grump. I mean, I suppose I would be as well. There's no way to explain. I guess if somebody picked me up and put me in a basket and took me to somewhere and shoved something horrible in my mouth every day, I wouldn't be a fan. Which is some sort of weird sci-fi story I don't really need to write. But this is the ironic thing, right? So she is getting more and more boisterous when it comes to vet visits, which I believe because she is feeling much better. So it's actually getting harder to get her to the vet as she gets better, which is great for her. Bit of a problem for me. Yeah. Anyway, so we were calling this character in Little Nightmares 2 Slender Man. And I was there going, I've really got to do the Slender Man murders. Now, of course, Slender Man is an internet creation. He's not real. But, nonetheless, there are genuinely Slender Man murders. So, we will pull that together for an episode. I really need to make a note of it because it keeps popping in and out of my mind. So Foxy's inspired that one. And we shall see what else we are going to do. Yeah, once again to remind you, there's no Tuesday stream for a while. I am going hard on writing my Jack the Ripper book and series of streams. And when we return, we will do Jack the Ripper Tuesdays as we go deep into Jack the Ripper, and then True Crime Thursdays will just be the normal show. A few different things. I thought doing Jack the Ripper twice a week as the only content for a while would just annoy the hell out of people. So we're going to split it up and do one and one, and then people on YouTube with the VODs can interweave them. Oh, thank you, Thelonious. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I'm enjoying writing it. I've wanted to write a history of Jack the Ripper for many, many years. And I took the opportunity to start doing it, and I've been working on it for I've probably been working on it for 10 months now. So now I've got the opportunity to really hammer away at it. So this is good. There is I have a substantial library to work through to try and make it as good as possible. We shall see. It's a fun subject because essentially people can argue about pretty much every single thing in it. Like it's almost at the point that there's very little that you can name and that somebody can't have an argument about. So obviously writing a book on it is simultaneously the vaguest but also the broadest sort of clashing nightmare. You have to sort of go probably, possibly, and then you have to decide, well, how much, what are we putting in? Because as you know, there's hundreds of books on this, all with many unique and different, and sometimes bullshit theories. What do you put in? What do you include? So, but fortunately, the original documents are vastly more accessible than they were a good few years ago. There's lots of original documents, all the newspaper reports and things, so you can really read and put together a lot yourself and double check a lot yourself. So, fascinating stuff. So we'll get into that. Yes, I am deliberately hyping that up. I feel confident I can hype that. I'm not sure how long it will take. A few issues behind the scenes that may mean that takes less time or more time, depending on what happens. But we are going, just to let you in, I've got 60,000 words already, and I don't feel we're anywhere near done, so... yeah, and then once I've written the book, I've got to work out how to do it, how to cut it up for a stream. Be interesting. As you know, I like a challenge. Yeah. Right, everyone. We've done two good true crimes, and then the slightly mad story of tortoises. And I think the plan is to pause there. We've gone through quite quickly today. We didn't go on as many tangents. We didn't have as much kitty time. As you know, I've only been streaming for a few weeks, so I'm still getting timings down. It's interesting to sort of bear in mind what length of material you need with the ebb and the flow of a stream. Ironically, I had as many words today as I've had in a stream that took half an hour longer. So it's kind of interesting, isn't it? So I'm learning. Thelonious says, I actually don't know much about Jack. Oh, Thelonious, don't worry. Soon you will know possibly more than you wanted to. Also, I'm pleased to announce that the story of Jack the Ripper does feature one of true crime's most famous cats, Diddles. No harm befalls Diddles. But Diddles probably knows who Jack the Ripper was. Unfortunately for us, Diddles can't talk in English. Or indeed, any other language we can understand. But soon you will meet Diddles. And a lot of other people. So there's a cat. There's am I doing this entirely because there was legitimately an opportunity to use the cat emotes? Slightly, yes. Yes, slightly. Slightly, yes. You may have noticed that I didn't have the promised end of stream slightly lighter, slightly odder, shorter breaking news. Admitted, this is because this is breaking news, but it's not really crime news. But I spent all day following the search for British TV presenter, doctor chap Michael Mosley, who's gone missing in Greece. It's not really a suitable subject to be discussed on a true crime stream as it's ongoing. I think that's a bit tasteless, but it is a live, active police investigation that I have been following, and because I've been reading constant daily updates, I did not find. Sorry, I got distracted. I'm squirrel. I got distracted. No, there's no news, Foxy. There is no news. They are still searching. Intriguingly, we'll discuss one point. I was intrigued to note that at one point, so this is a guy that they believe is on foot and has gone missing. They're wondering if he's fallen into the sea or gone up a trail. At one point, they called in the whole fire brigade to search. Now, I don't know whether that's because that's something they do when they need more bodies on the ground. In Britain, the police do not call the fire brigade in for something like this. I've never heard of the fire brigade being brought in for a missing person search, but in Greece they've done it, which is fascinating. So it does make you wonder where are they, what are they searching, what they're doing. Yes, Dennis, I'm sure I speak for everyone, I said we all hope he is found, and it's just a misunderstanding and we got lost. But it's quite a shock because, as you know, if you watch this, I particularly like people who are good at communicating what is perhaps sometimes complex subjects in an understandable way. And Michael Mosley is brilliant at taking medical subjects and gently explaining them to the broadest possible audience. And I've always quite admired that, so it's kind of a shock to see him in the news. So hopefully he is found as soon as possible. We shall see. Alright then, everybody, well, I hope you've enjoyed tonight's stream. I shall see you on Thursday next week with definitely need to bring more content along because it ran quite quick this week, so we shall see. I think it's probably going to be a good idea to have sort of modular content. So if I've got 4 stories, then you can always drop one if we've reached a good length, all these little tips I'm picking up. So thank you, Welsh. Thank you. Now, Gretch, thank you for letting us. That's brilliant. Obviously, we're going to raid out, and I will see who's on. And I should say, if anybody in the chat has suggestions for who to raid, do let me know. I mean, I'm unaware of any active true crime stuff on the moment, but personally I quite like doing a different vibe, a fun vibe to pick us up, because sometimes this can be a bit brutal. But we'll just see who's on. Let me have a look. Not got too many of the crafty people I follow on. Obviously there's Kittens. Oh, Notbush is on, yes, okay. We're definitely going to go and see Notbush. He is an exceptionally talented sculptor, and his stream is just pure chilled vibes and beautiful crafting skills. We raided him before, and I think we'll do another one because he's just so good. Have you caught any of the Dynaman's dig streams? Yes, he has been in real life all week, and it's amazing. Firstly, because obviously it's great informative content, but it's also great to see the landscape. It's a nice window into somewhere else, and it's been very good. Yes, yeah, they've been great. He's a really solid streamer, that guy, but also good at his other thing. And again, as I said, he's a great communicator, which I like. Right then, thank you everybody. We'll go and see Notbush. Enjoy some lovely crafts. Let me give a shout out to the Discord if you want to come into my Discord and discuss things or see what's going on. Yes, here's all my links. So my link tree, Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, Amazon if you want to buy the books, the Discord. Anyway, let's get you on. I've plugged this bloke. He's cool. Let's go and see him. All right then, everybody. Have a great time. I shall see you next Thursday, where we will have more shenanigans. and hopefully a healthy and happy cat. Wish me luck. Wish me luck for the healthy and happy cat. Bye, everyone.